Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Jim from JimOnLight.com here. Listen, I've been fortunate enough to be given an interview with Shawn London. Shawn is the Eagles of Death Metal's front of house audio guy. Shawn survived the attack at Le Bataclan, one of few. Shawn gave us his story, and if you're not used to dealing with things that are pretty real like this, like death and gunfire and just things of that nature, just be warned that it's coming in this interview. So, this is Shawn London here on JimOnLight.com. You know, I'm glad to see you.
Same here.
I'm super glad that I'm able to chat with you today, man. How's your mental state?
You know, I think my body took most of the shock than my head, because I got sick as soon as I got home, like cold, head cold, fever. I think that has a lot to do with no sleep and jet lag and, the initial shock of everything. But I'll tell you, I'm okay, for what I went through. Right now, I'm okay. Who knows what's going to happen in a week from now or 2 weeks, but.
So, I mean, it's so rough. I mean, can you walk me through some of what happened?
Sure. I mean, just to start off, I mean, as you're a touring guy yourself, these are completely, like, asinine to even think that something like this would ever happen to anybody, especially Americans. I mean, I know it does happen, but I mean, it's very rare. And we pulled in to the venue. This was our first show after our our little UK run that we did, which was probably 2 weeks or so. And Paris was our first stop into the European side of it. We pull in, we instantly get off the bus, we go right to the venues, try to use the restroom or take a shower or whatever, and everything seemed like a normal day. Everybody was really nice. Staff was sweet. There was no security guards there at the time, but like the production manager and the sound people and the staging and the lighting guys, they were all great. And we loaded in. Couldn't really, nothing ever looked odd or felt weird. It was just a normal show day. So after my line check, I decided to go off with one of the crew guys to go get a dinner. And we just sat outside in a little cafe and had a nice steak, and went back. And usually we have two opening bands, but this particular show we only had our direct support that was with us on tour. So they had just finished up their set, so it was time for us to get ready. So we get on stage, and we're setting mics and getting everything, all the gear tore off from the opening act. And I go out to the front of the house, and I kind of get everything ready, put my music on, and Jesse's, the singer's girlfriend, actually came out with me because she was going to DJ, because they have this online radio show that they do, and she was going to DJ, during the changeover. And for some reason, she couldn't get online. So, and if that were the case, if she got online, she would have been right next to me the whole night. But she couldn't get online because it was just bad, Wi-Fi. So she ended up going backstage, and then I sit out front of the house waiting for the TM to flash me, and then we start the show. And I have an intro song that we play, and the band comes out, and we start the show. So, when I get out the front of the house, I kind of survey the area always just to see who's around me. I always do that. And there was a lot. It was an oversold house. I mean, the place holds like 1,200, I think, capacity, but it was easily 1,500 to 1,700 people in there.
Oh.
It was packed. You couldn't even get around. I couldn't get to front of the house and back behind stage very easy. I had to, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, push people aside. So nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Everybody was big smiles on their face, and everybody had a drink in their hand. And, you know, it was going to be a great night, like it usually is. So we get into first, second, third song. Everything's great. People are just, you know, going crazy, singing along with all the songs. It's, you know, it just blows me away that they already know all the lyrics to these new songs. And we get to about the fifth song, and that's when, during the breakdown in the bridge area, that's when I just heard, you know, what sounded to me like firecrackers, like someone threw a pack of firecrackers directly right behind me. And I immediately just turned around, and I could see everybody behind me turning around at the same time. And then with this horrific, you know, this stare that they turned around and gave me back, like, was, oh my God, what's happening? And people just started screaming and running, and I heard more gunfire, bullets flying everywhere. And I wanted to see what was causing this, because I couldn't see, because I'm down a little bit lower than where the bar area was behind me.
Yeah.
So I was down about 2 feet where the dance floor is. So when people started dropping, I could see directly over my shoulder there was 2 gunmen, and they were just firing at people randomly, just going one after one and one after one, just shooting. And then that's when I caught eye contact with one of the gunmen, and he shot towards me, like to shoot me, and it hit the console, and that's when I went flying down and jumped underneath. But at the same time, the people that were directly behind me had nowhere to go, because these guys were holding the door down. And they jumped down in the pit with me, and most of them were injured or shot. A couple people actually collapsed because they died. And then we kind of all got into a group underneath the console. Luckily, that night we had a Verona Midas, which is a 48-channel console, which is pretty big.
Yeah.
Big, heavy beast. And I had 2 front-of-house racks made out of Kevlar, cases. So they caught a lot of fire and ricochets, and, there was an AK-47 bullet at close range travels pretty far. Like, if it'll shoot somebody, go right through them and shoot the next person, and it's just a disgusting, sick bullet. So, I'm completely trying to figure out what is going on. I know there's gunmen, and I know that we're being shot at, and we were being targeted. And then, as soon as I heard the gunman close to me say "Allah Akbar," I knew. I couldn't believe it. We were being attacked by terrorists, and I just lost it. I almost was laughing that it was like unreal, and I was like, no, this is not happening. This is a joke, right? There's nothing to laugh about it, and it wasn't a joke. So I instantly just I stayed where I was and kept quiet. And this girl in front of me was injured. She had a shot to the upper torso by their shoulder, and I think maybe on the leg. And she was trying to hold her breath, because she was in pain, and I didn't want them to know that we were still alive down there, because I think the gunman thought that he hit me. That's why he didn't bother going over and trying to finish off whatever was left, or whatever people were still alive.
Yeah.
So we stayed there, and the bullets just kept getting shot. An AK-47 at close range is a really loud gun, and then the concussion from the bullet out of the barrel, you can feel it at close range at 2 feet, and the smell of the gunpowder and the blood. You can smell blood mixed in. It's like a copper penny in your mouth. You just can't forget that. And people screaming for their lives. Just poor kids next to me going, no, 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 please, in American and in French, and just silence after a few shots. And these guys were just there for one reason, is to kill as many people as they could. And they knew they were not coming out of this alive. So they just went through and just systematically were just killing and shooting people in the back because you couldn't do anything but lie down on the ground, because if you tried to run, they would get you. So the way they came in through the entrance behind me, they stayed there for a while. So nobody could just escape. So everybody laid down. The whole dance floor was on the ground. So they just started going through. That's when, about 15 minutes into the firing, they would change clips out I would say every 5 minutes, and they would go through. They were 20-round clips, is what I remember seeing. And the first one that the guy near me threw was hot, smoking still, and it was down by my feet. And I was like, I kind of like got, like an idea that maybe we could have a little time between changing ammunition. So there actually was, thank God. So these guys kind of passed our area, started moving towards the stage, and now they were not directly to the right of me at house right, or excuse me, house left. They were, now moving in front of house position, and going through and shooting people. And then I could hear them bandolier go out, and then they'd throw another one on the ground. And that's what I told these people that were next to me that were still well enough to run. I said, go, run. And a few of them did, but the gunman saw them and turned back and kind of shot towards them, and a few of them ran back and hid back underneath with me again. So then they started going through, still shooting, and I'm like, at this time, going, where's the police? I mean, how do these guys continue to shoot and nobody's doing anything? And it was just horrifying, and people screaming and chaos. And these guys were just yelling. And they were also yelling at each other because they had headsets on, so they were communicating. I think maybe they were talking in French, so I'm sure that it was something about how much time they had left before the cops showed up. So
these guys were communicating with communicators?
They had earpieces in, I guess.
Oh.
Not all of them, but I know that did. And they had they were definitely screaming at each other because it was probably so chaotic in there they couldn't hear. And there was one guy that kept coming in and out of one of the front doors off to the side, yelling at him like, "Hurry up! The cops are coming," or whatever. And I think he was the guy that ended up in the balcony that started shooting people from the balcony. And it just, I had to get out of there. I just knew that I wasn't gonna die there. But I had no sight, no vision, no anything. I was all ears and listening to what was going on around me. So I knew where gunmen were, and by their shots being fired, how far their distance was from me. And that's what basically saved my life and a couple of people around me, because as soon as that third change hit, they didn't have really anywhere to keep, because they came in Adidas like sweatsuits and tennis shoes and a gun and maybe a little backpack or a book bag, and you couldn't possibly hold that much ammunition. So these guys were taking a little more time than usual to pull up wherever their magazines were and loading and cocking. That gave us at least 20 seconds to 30 seconds to get up and go. And that's what we did on about the third time when the one guy ran out of bullets. We got out of there. We got up and ran, and I pulled the girl that was in front of me, just dragged her pretty much up the step, and then we all just hit the door, ran for it, and got out. The gunman did turn towards us and shoot, but missed us. And once we got outside, there were no cops. There was 2 cops at the corner of the building. And I was out in the middle of the street kind of like looking for someone to tell me what to do or go somewhere. And there was just bodies still out in the middle of the street and on the sidewalk, just laid out, bloody, dead. And I finally ran to the other corner where people were they were basically, the emergency services were all parked and waiting for the special teams to come in so they can go in and just rush these guys. So I was out by then, but I kept hearing shooting and shooting. They kept shooting. And from that point on, I was helpless. I didn't know really what to do because the rest of my band was in there, and I know that they were moving their way towards the back of the back of the house, where there was only one exit and a window. I don't know if you saw the videos, but the one window where the girl was hanging from
Yeah.
was one of the exits, and then there was the door where there was a gunman in that hallway getting people running out of the hallway. And if you saw, there was bodies in the alley just laying out, and you either ran past them and didn't get shot, or you got hit and you were injured, or you got killed. And they went through and just, you know, slaughtered these poor people just systematically, like one after another. And if you didn't have a wound on you, you were going to get hit. And some people lucked out, like myself, and we got out of there. But horrifically, you know, some of them didn't. And, you know, it just tears me apart and it pisses me off. And I've got my emotions are just all over the place. But I'm home, and I'm glad to be with my family and friends. And I'll tell you, I never saw this coming and never expected this to ever happen in a major city, you know, like Paris. But it does happen, as you can tell and as you heard. So that's pretty much, you know, what I saw and what I went through when I was inside the Bataclan. Everything else outside was all mostly questions and where's the rest of the band and who's alive and who's hurt. And I spent 3 hours waiting out there for looking at dead bodies go by me to see if any of them were my friends. And luckily, when the cops did go in, they released all the people that were injured that could get out, that were playing dead or whatever, and they got them all out. And a few of my band members and my tour manager were hiding in different little nooks, like a microphone room, and there was one barricaded area. There was another upstairs bathroom where my bass player and and a couple of our friends were, and one of our guitar player, Dave, with the beard, he was stuck up there in one of the bathroom rooms too with some people. And I heard their stories were just, you know, unbelievable, and how these terrorists were trying to get into their rooms by, you know, shooting through the door and, you know, but they barricaded everything. So they were trying to pretend they were cops, and then nobody let them in, which is the best decision they made all night. And then when the real cops came, they heard these huge explosions because they had detonated their vests in front of the door where one of our guys was at. And then the real cops said, "We're here. The guy's dead. Open up the door, put your hands up." And they all started letting people go. So that's when I was standing out in the middle of the street waiting to see if I saw anybody. I saw my tour manager walk out, and that's when I said, "Where's everybody else?" And that's when he confirmed that our friend Nick got killed, because I know Nick got shot, but I didn't know if he was dead or not. But Nick was out, done. And then we ran into our bass player because he was in one of the rooms. He got released, and our guitar player, Dave. So we were all together. We found our bus driver and the opening support act, who happened to usually be at the front or at the merch position, usually during our set, to sell their own merch. And they actually went to go get a bite to eat next door. So they heard all the commotion, so they hid outside. So they got away. So we all kind of grouped together, but we still don't have any information about the rest of the band. And luckily, the police station called our management, and they said, "We have the rest of the band and the crew. They're all safe." Oh. And we called our management, and that was our communication. It was a triangle of police, management, and our bus driver's phone. So luckily, we got to get the word out that everybody was okay, except for our friend Nick. And you know, it was a long 6 to 7 hours of just stress and trying to figure out what was going on and why was this happening, and you know, who was hurt, who wasn't hurt. We had a lot of guests there as well, and a lot of our guests didn't make it.
So sorry, brother.
Yeah.
Oh. Was there no venue security? I mean, tell me about that. What was going on there?
Believe it or not, the venue security, there was only 4 security guards for the whole night, completely. They had 2 at the door originally when the doors opened. They had 1 guy standing next to the backstage area and 1 guy in the pit. When the shooting started, there was 2 guys in the pit, and there was 1 guy that was standing still at the door by the security, or by the backstage entrance, and there was 1 guy that was kind of roaming around somewhere near the venue, and like the front of the house area by the bar. When the shooting started, right before it started, my singer actually, because I have to watch what he's doing, because he walks out on stage, and I have to kind of watch right his mic, because he'll feed back under the stack, and he gets there and he's gonna actually yell at him, telling him, "What are you doing?" Because these kids were falling over the barricade and hurting themselves, and nobody was doing anything to help them, except for 1 security guard was. So when he went to tell him that, the guy walked away. The 2 security guards that were there all left, and next thing I know, the firing started. When I got outside, after I got out, from the front of the building, and I got up to the corner, the first 2 people I see that I recognized were the security guards in their Bataclan jackets, and they were sitting at the corner, and they looked at me like they were surprised that I was still alive, and because they knew where I was in the where I was in the venue, and how close I was to the initial attack. And I don't know, I'm just I'm not trying to make any, what do you call it? Accusations. I'm sorry. Yeah. That, they had something to do with it, but it was really strange that they got out through the front where nobody else was getting out. And they were out before I got out. And that, I just don't understand. It's just kind of confusing to me.
So no shit. So the 2 security guards that were in the front got out the front before the gunmen started shooting.
Exactly.
I wonder why no one said anything about that. That seems a little.
Well, no one really knows, or just I don't think anybody recognized that they were security. Maybe, I don't know, but I know that we did, because we went with them all day, most of the day when the doors were open, and they weren't very nice either. Usually security guards are pretty cool with us. They smile, they talk. These guys didn't say a word. One of the guys was actually really cool, that was out at front, just sitting by himself, checking tickets, and he was okay. And but the rest of these guys, they just, they didn't want to deal. It was just odd that they were out of the building before we all made it out, and they were at the stage position when this was going on.
Oh. That just fucking nauseates me to hear that.
Right.
Oh. Can you tell me how, like, is there anything that you felt when the shooting started happening? Was there anything you thought you could do? Like, or was it just jump down, get some cover, and get out?
Well, there was nothing. I mean, it was an ambush, and there was really nothing you can do. I thought about what if, and if I had a handgun with me, or I was concealing, that I could have actually made a point to take somebody out, because they couldn't see me where I was, because there was a barricade around me that had covered Dubatine, so I could see through the bottom of the Dubatine. I could see their footsteps, and I could actually pull a little bit of the top of the Dubatine down to look, and I saw the upper chest and the head, and them carrying and just shooting. And I tried not to make myself, but if I was trained correctly and I was carrying, I could have taken somebody out.
You think that's going to change the way you do things in the future?
Absolutely. I've already got a training set up for me next week, and I'm going to purchase a handgun. I'm going to talk with a specialist in that deals with this, who is a friend of mine, his brother, and he is willing to come, and he's going to train me. He's going to set me through classes. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get certified, and I will be carrying. And that's just how it is. I mean, that's just where we're at right now in this world. I mean, I I believe that if at least not myself or anybody else in my crew was doing the same, we could have saved some lives. I believe that.
You know, it's a very unpopular opinion that we hold.
Of course.
You know,
but
people
put them there, put them in my position, and then ask them that same question. Because there was nobody was armed. In war, at least the other opposite side has a rifle or some sort of, a weapon. We had nothing. We were completely blindsided, and it was, unfortunately, that's what they knew, and that's why they did it, because there was no threat to them, and they could be able to pull off and slaughter as many people, and they wanted to do that. That was what their goal was, and they knew they were going to come out of this dead. That's why they all had vests, and they were cowards enough to not get hit by the Paris police department and special forces. But I mean, that's just the intention that was on these guys' minds, and you're dealing with a whole different mindset.
Now, do you see that? How do you see things changing for us in the future, especially with some of the smaller overseas gigs? The venues over there are of that size generally, unless you're playing a bigger house. What do you think's going to go on now?
Well, hopefully the venues will make an effort to upgrade their security, train them in a way that to observe and to be vigilant, to protect their customers and their bands that are traveling, maybe even arm them. I don't know, but I know that other bands are probably feeling the same way that I do, and I know crew guys that would definitely back me 100% on the training and being licensed to carry. The problem is a lot of these countries won't let you bring guns. Even the FBI, they're not allowed to be. They can't hold guns while they're in a different country, especially in France. So that doesn't do us really good. But there are hired security in these different countries that you can probably I think maybe, I don't know if they can actually carry, but there are security, like the guys that took care of us after the incident. They were a special security force that that came from the police department, but they were detailed to do diplomats and to do different figureheads from all over the world and international wise. So they got to cover us, and they were armed at all times. It might have to come down to that, where you have to go through and hire somebody to keep an eye on you guys, and just until, I don't know when. I mean, I don't know. It's a tough call. This may go on forever. This may be a new standard. After 9/11, things have changed. So I guarantee that this is going to change a lot of things for the European side of the entertainment world. And who knows? But I definitely agree that something needs to be done, either with security at the venue or to have hired staff that are come with you while you're in Europe.
I know it's a major question to ponder, whether people like ourselves who are interested in carrying a firearm, the responsibility, do we need to be able to have, or should that responsibility of protecting ourselves at the gig be placed upon us? I mean, frankly, I don't know if I could do as good of a job at front of house if I know I need to be able to be locked and loaded and have to be. Like, I think dude, I've been, around firearms my whole life. I've got a concealed carry. Like, do you feel that it's going to hinder your job, or do you think that it is something that the venues have got to start getting their asses in gear about? I mean, what do you feel? Do you think it's our responsibility more, or now we should start demanding more from the venues and the promoters?
Well, I can go both ways on this, because I think that it shouldn't be my responsibility, but unfortunately, because of the things that are happening, and now it is.
Yeah, it makes
I
sense.
can't wait, and I wait and just depend on hearsay or have the promoter tell you, no, 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 we're okay, we're covered. But where's the guarantee? I want to see proof. You know what I mean? I want to speak to, security guards and production managers and the tour managers usually talk before every gig, as you know. They need to be assured, and they need to feel safe. And they need to know that their band and crew are safe before they even step one foot on that stage or even open those doors. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of venues in the South, and because of all these hip hop issues of guns and all these things, they go through gun, they go through metal detectors, and if it takes 3 hours before you get one, well, you need to show up to the venue at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 in the afternoon to load in, to get in, to step into the venue. But at least we're safe. We can't help if there was somebody that came in earlier and hid some guns somewhere. I mean, it's just it's chaotic, and it's really all over the place. But I would say that if I were carrying a concealed weapon, eventually I think I'd be okay out front of house, because it would just be a day-to-day thing for me, and I would eventually get used to having that, just like a security guard or a cop or or a military personnel. It's just something that you have to do. It's something I don't want to do. I'd rather not. I'd rather depend on the venues to take care of this situation. But it's a tough one. It's I didn't really ever think about anything like this before this happened, and no one really should have. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to let everybody know that's touring out there, don't, you know, don't profile anybody that looks like a Muslim or maybe look Middle Eastern or, it's a lot of these idiots, these assholes that are doing this shit aren't backed by their religion, but they are taking it upon themselves to do what they do because, they just are not thinking correctly.
Yeah.
Their thought process is completely diminished. There's no human soul. There's nothing like that inside these people. They want to get off this earth quickly by God's law so they can share paradise with their friends. That's what they think. I mean, it's just, but a lot of this is gonna be it's gonna be terrifying to be out in Europe anywhere as a band at this moment, because I know there's bands still out there right now, and they're the Deftones are still touring, and they were actually at our show during this, but they left one song before because they had to load in at 7 a.m. the next day at our venue at the Bataclan. So, and the U2 guys the crew was supposed to be hanging out with me at front of house, but they had an HBO special that they had to do, so they couldn't make it, and they loaded in the next, and it was just, there was too many what ifs, and I was going to be there, but unfortunately it didn't happen for all of us. Like Natty Lights, she was having a great time on stage at monitor position with her friends, Charlene and Jasmine, and they were, having the best time. And then, unfortunately, they didn't make it out, and it's just terrible. It's a great loss to the entertainment industry to lose her, and to lose Nick Alexander, who was a great merchandise guy and a great friend of ours. And and we lost some label representatives that worked in Paris for Universal. And I came home to find out that a good friend of mine that lives in Venice, where I'm at, his cousin came to see our show, which I didn't know, and he got killed. And our bus company, Jorg, from Beat the Streets, sent out a couple people that were in Paris to come see our show, and they didn't make it.
Oh my God!
And somehow somebody wherever you're at has been affected by this, especially in the entertainment industry. And people know people who know people. And it was only 100 or whatever souls, but to me it means 1,000,000. And I hope that, you know, that we can figure out something and we can get some peace in our lives after this.
Is there anything that you suggest people do going forward? I mean, to just kind of keep in their heads. What would you say? What would you say to somebody who is sitting at home going, you know, fuck, look at what this guy lived through and look at the look on his face. I mean, you can tell. And what would you say? Tell me something like that.
Well, like I said again, I'm glad to be home. There was a second there that I thought, wow, this is how I'm going to go. After I realized that we were in a terrorist attack, I'm going to be killed by terrorists in Paris. And I kind of let go and was just thinking, you know, let's just get this over with. God, please make it a blackout, lights out, shot to the head, quick. I don't want to get shot in the stomach and bleed out and, you know, be sitting here in pain. And then when it didn't happen, I was like, okay, there's a chance of survival here. Never give up. Never give up. And whenever you can get out, get out. That's it. Run. I don't care. You're not a pussy for doing it. You're not trying to, I mean, unfortunately, you know, you would do better by yourself to get out than to try to help people who are already dead or can't walk. I mean, you can try, but you're putting both of yourself in danger. And unfortunately, I actually did have somebody that I dragged out. Didn't drag out, but I helped up and helped out because she was injured. And if I could do that to 20 people, I would have. But unfortunately, I couldn't. It was the circumstances that we were in that, you know, a lot of us had to just get out. So, you know, if you're ever caught in a situation like that, just do not lose hope. There's always a way out. And use your ears and your senses, because that's what saved my life. And, you know, for some reason I'm here, and I'm here for a reason. And I think, you know, that it'll dawn on me somewhere, somehow. I'll help somebody out again or whatever. Or maybe this is helping you out. But I'm here to tell my story. And that's pretty much what happened. And, you know, again, just be vigilant. When you guys are touring, when you're out, just watch, keep an eye on your surroundings. Any weird changes at the last minute, just notice and be prepared, because, you know, some people just aren't. And this is what happens.